Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving headfirst into one of the most terrifying, edge-of-your-seat survival stories ever documented. We're talking about being pushed to the absolute limits of human endurance, where every single second is a literal fight to just exist. Imagine this for a second. What if the only way to stay alive was to spend 5 days trapped beside a dead body? Put yourself right in the shoes of a man named Jake, finding himself stuck at the bottom of an inescapable ravine. This isn't some movie script manufactured for thrills. This is a very real, incredibly harrowing test of survival that really forces us to ask, what would we do in that exact same situation? Phase 1. The unexpected disaster. Like a lot of these crazy survival stories, this one started out on a perfectly normal, unassuming day. Jake and his best friend were just out hiking through a remote mountain range, completely unaware of the chaos that was about to shatter their trip and their lives in just a fraction of a second. Out of nowhere, the environment violently turned on them. A massive landslide struck without warning. Try to picture the sheer, terrifying violence of the earth suddenly giving way right beneath your boots. 1 second, you're walking on solid ground, and the very next moment, the entire mountain is shifting, pulling literally everything down with it. Both men plummeted hundreds of feet down into a rocky ravine. Just think about that massive distance for a moment. Hundreds of feet. That's like falling off a skyscraper, violently tumbling down alongside crushing rocks and debris, completely dropping them out of the reach of civilization and into an absolute abyss. When the dust finally settled at the bottom of that dark ravine, the outcomes were drastically, devastatingly different. Jake survived, though he was battered with multiple severe injuries. But his best friend, tragically, did not survive the fall. In the blink of an eye, Jake isn't just physically broken. He's entirely alone and instantly burdened with the unimaginable loss of his closest companion. And right away, his options basically hit zero. Let's run through it. First, no cell service whatsoever to call for help. Second, no food to keep his energy up. And finally, because of the sheer vertical drop of the landslide, there was absolutely no way to climb back out. He was, for all intents and purposes, completely trapped. Moving into Phase 2, 5 days of darkness. The sudden deafening violence of the landslide was over, and it gave way to the methodical, eerie isolation of his grim new reality. Time must have felt like it crawled to an agonizing halt. His descent into darkness unfolded over 5 incredibly long days. Day 1 brought the sudden fall and the tragic loss. Then, days 2 through 4 stretched out into this brutal, continuous battle against freezing temperatures, deep hunger, and total isolation, all accompanied by these eerie sounds in the dark. And finally, Day 5 marked the absolute last desperate escape attempt. As the freezing night set in, he had to take some grim action just to survive. Step 1, he built a small makeshift shelter using the surrounding rocks and their backpacks. But Step 2 highlights a truly chilling reality. The only spot protected from the biting, icy wind was right beside his friend's body. He had to huddle there night after night just to keep from freezing to death. And the cold wasn't the only thing he was fighting. Every single night, these strange, unidentifiable sounds echoed through the valley in the pitch black. Imagine the immense psychological toll that would take. Being severely injured, starving, and freezing is one thing, but those echoing noises in the absolute darkness made him truly believe something was actively watching him. His mind was under siege just as much as his broken body. Which brings us to Phase 3, the rescue signal. By this time, the clock was ticking loudly. His body was failing, and he knew for sure he couldn't last much longer down there. Day 5. This was the absolute turning point. 5 days with no food, constantly exposed to the freezing cold, all while dealing with severe injuries. By this critical day, his strength was almost entirely gone. He realized he had to act right then and there, making one last definitive push before his energy hit zero. It was literally now or never. Under immense pressure, he engineered a final, desperate signal for help. Step 1. He took the very thing keeping him somewhat warm, his jacket, and made the incredibly bold decision to burn part of it. Step 2. He used that material to successfully create a thick column of smoke. He was sacrificing his immediate comfort and warmth for a tiny, remote shot at rescue. And you know what? That gamble actually paid off. The thick column of smoke worked. A rescue helicopter spotted the signal from miles away. Once they saw it, the response was incredibly swift. Rescuers reached the remote ravine in mere minutes, and Jake was finally pulled up to safety, putting an end to his harrowing 5-day physical ordeal. Phase 4, the true survival test. Now, you'd think the story wraps up neatly with a helicopter ride, right? Well, not exactly. We need to pivot to the profound psychological lesson that sits right at the core of this whole experience. Listen to what Jake actually said after the rescue. Quote, "The cold wasn't the hardest part. It was fighting the feeling that no one was coming." Wow. His own words completely redefine the entire experience for us. It wasn't just a physical battle against nature and the elements. It was primarily an intense internal battle against total despair. He was basically fighting a brutal war on two separate fronts. On one side, physical survival, enduring the intense hunger, the freezing wind, and his severe bodily injuries. On the other side, psychological survival, flat out refusing to lose hope while trapped in total isolation. It makes such a powerful point. Survival isn't always about being the physically strongest person in the room. Most often, it's about sheer mental fortitude. So let's wrap up this explainer by challenging you directly with this. When physical strength fails and all seems lost, would your hope be strong enough to keep you alive? It's a profound takeaway from Jake's nightmare in the ravine. It shows us that in the darkest of depths, hope is sometimes the greatest and literally the only survival tool we have. Thank you so much for joining me for this breakdown. Keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next one.